Let ourselves listen to the bell. And you also might hear in the background now the air conditioning happening in the house, coming off and on probably throughout our time together. It's warm in the house and cold down here. So let's take a few moments to arrive in our seat. Take a few moments to gather our senses together in one place, letting ourselves settle into this body, heart, and mind in the present moment as best we can. Noticing the sense of hearing, far away and close up sounds might be occurring. We may notice as we gently close our eyes that the seeing, what comes to the eye door, changes. There may be more internal seeing going on, which is probably really more like the thought door that's thinking about what it sees there on the inside. It's not the pure door of the eye. But if you get sleepy as you're sitting, you can open your eyes a little and let light in, or look at something with kind of an unfocused view. And we can notice tasting and smelling. We can notice touching as we have our touch points of our hands gently crossed somewhere, touching each other, or the feeling of our buttocks and legs on the chair. Noticing gravity as we start to use our body as the anchor, the place to return to, that touch point of the buttocks on the chair or the hands on each other, or the object of the breath. We can always use the object of the breath because it's with us whether we're sitting or whether we're standing, whether we're walking, whether we're doing our daily activities. And so whatever object of attention you choose at first, just noticing the beginning of settling the body, calming, relaxing the body. And if you like to do it with a little scanning of the body before settling or as you settle, just let that easefulness of some sort of feeling flow through your body from behind your eyes, relaxing there around your eye sockets and at your temples, and allowing a kind of calming energy to flow around your face and your jaw. Letting it happen with sensation or a sense of sweeping through the body. It can happen around the neck and the shoulders as we let ourselves align the spine in an upright yet relaxed way. letting ourselves settle to allow the bones just to hold us up, releasing tension around the rib cage and the heart, relaxing tension around the low back as best we can, and the belly, the organs. Letting this alignment of the skull over the rest of the body, letting the feet be evenly placed on the ground so we can feel groundedness perhaps at our feet, or at least the sensations of pressure, maybe heat or coolness. And we let ourselves settle on that breath at the nostrils, or at the rising and the falling of the chest, or the filling and releasing of the diaphragm. Being present, really being with the breath arising, filling, connecting with sensation. Perhaps noticing if it's a long breath or a short breath as that breath comes to a close and there's space, momentary space before the next part of the exhale happens. Letting this be where mindfulness is present and where awareness arises. And breathing out, noticing whether that was a long breath or a short breath. Was it cool or warm, rough or smooth? Being in the present moment. Perhaps having a gentle intention of whatever might arise, being mindful as best we can, or holding ourselves in kindness, being compassionate with ourselves if thoughts arise that think we should be doing something differently. We just allow that thinking to be noticed, acknowledged, and still staying with whatever's happening. And that's what's happening when thinking arises. We notice that. And we can go back to that single object of the breath. Or we can just open right wherever our attention is drawn. With mindfulness and awareness, we just open there, noticing if there's thinking happening, or maybe noticing sensation that might be occurring, if there's tension or something happening in the body. Whatever arises, we're with it. we sustain our attention on it, we can notice when it passes away. And we can notice all of those moments as mindful moments of awakening because we're attending to what's present, what's arising, coming together and falling apart. Without a real agenda, just maybe some intention gently that we can return to when we're lost in thought. We can return to our intention. Gratitude for ourselves for being here, and gratitude to our Sangha, each other in our group. And for understanding a little bit about the teachings, the Dhamma, or the truth of the way things are, that they can be seen directly as impermanent. Not to be clung to, and not to be held on to, because we can't change. The conditions come together, they stay for a while, and they fall apart. And if we grasp at wanting something to be different, that causes clinging, and that causes aversion or disappointment or a whole lot of other string of events. And so if we can just see what arises clearly without putting a storyline around it, seeing it neutrally with mindfulness and awareness, then wisdom arises and can see whether it's beneficial or not. Shall we just let that go? Have we had that thought 100 times? We're having the same thought again. We can just let it go. And we can incline ourselves toward skillful, toward holding ourselves gently, toward perhaps really seeing that these are the Four Noble Truths happening in action as we see that something arises. It can become suffering, disappointing when we cling to it. The first noble truth, and the second noble truth of seeing that if we cling to it, it causes suffering. And knowing that there is freedom from this suffering. And that understanding of the fourth noble truth is the Eightfold Path. And so we have intention and attention. We have the right view to be able to see clearly that what arises can't be clung to. And we just return over and over again to that single object of the breath, that the point that we choose, or the touch point, or the larger feeling of our entire body breathing, breath throughout the body, or where do we feel the breath in the body? And if we open out to the bigger picture, we can also see independent objects coming into our view from each of the senses, or one sense door or another sense door. And that too is keeping the attention on a single object, but the objects might be changing. And we see them arise and pass away. Returning again to the breath or the focus point. If various hindrances arrive, like a restless mind or a tired mind and body, or we're lost in a thinking process, we can just begin where we are or return to the breath. No judgment, no shame, just beginning again. Understanding the importance of being aware and alert to the present moment, to be able to see clearly that first noble truth of if something is pleasant or unpleasant, if we can see it mindfully but not attached to it. We have moments of clear seeing. We might also notice sometimes when we're sitting that we have awareness of the elements. That can sometimes help us not be so attached to what's happening. In the mind, we may notice a kind of solidity holding ourselves together. It's the earth element that can be noticed as tightness or pressure in the body. We can notice that we might see it as solid, solidified, but we don't cling to it. But we can notice parts of the body that seem solid. something we might consider belonging to ourselves. There's internal earth element and external earth element. We have hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, bones, bone marrow, kidneys, heart, liver, lungs, intestines, all kinds of things that seem solid. So whether it's an internal or an external element, it's an earth element that can seem solid. But it's not ours. It's not me, it's not mine. It's not the true self. And so that's wisdom that can see this. And it can lean us toward disenchantment and help us develop some dispassion toward this false sense of solidity. And there's the water element, liquidity, the kind of motion that we feel in the body. Blood, sweat, phlegm, tears, spit, urine, whatever else belongs to ourself that seems watery. We can notice that happening in the body. And there's simply the water element. Without attachment, without clinging to them, it's water element. Not me, not mine, not myself. There's the fire element, the internal fire element. We feel it as warmth. We can feel it as eating and drinking and consuming and tasting. It gets digested. The fire element. We might notice that this also changes. It's not me, it's not mine. It's just simply the fire element. And the air element is also external and internal. Internally, it's winds, upgoing winds and downgoing winds, winds in the belly, winds in the bowels, winds that course through our limbs, the in-breath and the out-breath. We can notice the element of air, airy, without clinging to it. Simply the air element. When we see these various elements with wisdom, We realize that it's not mine, not myself, and we can let go of our clinging to it. Have a little more dispassion around it. And so we return over and over to whatever is arising, having our attention renewed with awareness, just the right energy to find interest in what's there. Whether our focus is on our breath or whether we're noticing sensations in the body or perhaps being aware of elements as they're noticed, both internally and externally. We allow ourselves to be held in this container of this ever-changing body, this consciousness that can notice pain and pleasure, or maybe not notice the neutral version. And we can hold ourselves with kindness. We can be appreciative of spending this time on our cushion, being attentive, sometimes not being so attentive, returning to the present over and over again. And we can nurture this sense of gratitude, this kindness, so that we can feel it for ourselves as well as include others. May we have happiness and the causes of happiness. May we be free from our suffering. May we take care of ourselves happily. Sometimes that means doing things that we might not think we wanted to ever do, especially as we get older. We need various assistances. May we take care of ourselves happily. May we be free from our own internal suffering. May we see this clearly as not to be clung to, and have compassion for ourselves when things are challenging. May we let this feeling of well-being include others. Include a teacher or a benefactor, a being that we've derived great benefit from. An animal, a child, a teacher. Inclining our hearts and minds to envisioning them being happy and healthy and being held in their own kindness. And may we hold them gently as things are difficult, wishing them to be free from their suffering. That we develop this metta, this loving kindness and this karuna, this sense of compassion. May we let this beautiful states of mind include another person, a close friend, seeing them healthy, happy, in our mind's eye, including them in the container of our hearts, the container of our breathing being. May this friend be free from suffering. May they be free from danger. May they have ease and well-being. May they have compassion for themselves when things are difficult. Noticing the feeling within you, or repeating the phrases that work for you for letting this kindness include yourself, the benefactor, the friend, and a neutral person. Someone you saw on the street on your walk today, or someone you saw in the news or on your device when you were looking at things. A single person or a group of people to bring to mind, holding them in our hearts and wishing gladness and well-being to be a part of their existence. May you be free from harm, safe and protected. May you have ease in your life. And then if we include them in the circle of our heart, of our breath, of our being, this concentration built up can mirror back to us this beautiful state of mind of kindness, metta, and compassion, karuna, of mudita, joy in the practice, wishing the others to find moments of joy, and equanimity, including all of these beings, requires a kind of equanimity that we nurture, that we don't fall into extremes when we have compassion for someone, but we are present and there with them in their suffering. May we include beings that we may know who are in sickness right now, holding them in the freedom of our hearts to be free from their suffering. Or those who might be under violent attack, or those who may be fleeing from their homes, those who have uncertain, unstable places to stay. May we include others in this energy of kindness and compassion, that they be free from harm, safe and protected, have ease in their lives. May those who are in suffering and those who are in joy, may those seen and unseen, known and unknown, teachers, relatives, and friends, beings that walk and fly and swim and crawl, those above and below the earth's surface. May all beings everywhere have happiness and the causes of happiness. Find moments of joy and equanimity. May they have compassion for themselves when things are challenging. As we see and understand that all conditioned things arise and pass away, we can see more clearly with mindfulness, which can bring happiness, which is peace, true happiness, peace. Anicca vata sankhara uparivaya domino upakitawa merchanti te samvapasamo sukho. All conditioned things arise and pass away. They are subject to impermanence. And seeing this clearly with mindfulness brings the greatest happiness, which is peace. And may the goodness and the merit of our practice benefit all sentient beings. Letting the sound come to the ears, letting the softness of the gaze as you open your eyes and let light in and allow whatever conditions come together as we begin to see or have intention of lifting and moving and putting our hands on our glass of tea or water. Feeling pressure, external solidity. Noticing light as we reach and put our glasses on, and as we send some of that kindness a little bit to each other in our circle. Thank you so much for your practice. Brings great joy in my direction.